Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Sloan, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Inspirational Influencer News, People Making a Difference. And I have a person with me who is in fact making a difference, Rick McCullough. And he's going to talk to us about the critical breakthrough systems that allow you to amplify impact and make a bigger difference. And that's always a good thing. Just a little bit about Rick before I ask him to tell us exactly what he wants to tell us today. He's an author, a speaker, a business development coach, and the director of Light Bulb Moments, and the founder of WIIFM. What's in it for me? WIIFM, Sales and Marketing. He is a master synthesizer who applies the best in business and scientific thinking as a crusader for helping you get more clients. Good afternoon, Rick. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Mary. Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell us, what are you going to tell us with all these fun things that you've got going on?
Well, I'm going to get into a little bit about some of the critical systems everybody needs for their business. Before I do, I'm going to just give you a little bit of story in my background. And I thank you for Mary giving me a short version of that. And I'm going to get a little more detail in my story so you understand who I am and why I have some right to actually even talk to you about this. So when I was very young, I was the fourth child of four siblings.
That must have been probably just 10 years ago or so, right?
Maybe 12.
Okay. Just so we're all clear.
And so now my parents, in all respect for them and all the love I want to give them, they both passed away years ago, but they were great parents. However, I was the last of four children. And by the time they came along, I think they were worn out. So what happened is I ended up having to really figure out things on my own and create things for myself and be more creative and how I actually entertained myself and got introduced to people. I mean, again, my parents gave me good guidance along some of those lines, but I was really kind of on my own. And as I grew older, and I actually graduated at the University of Calgary, University of Manitoba, and I moved to Calgary after that. And I had a lot of missteps along the way. I mean, there's some successes and some missteps, mainly through some of the people I met that I wouldn't want introduced to some of my enemies. So that actually created some missteps in my life. And so what that's telling you a little bit about the problems I had actually moving forward. So I tried a number of different things and really didn't succeed very well, a lot of them. In some cases, I was actually dealt a big blow by talking to people that were, I would call them outright criminals. And so I was at some points actually even threatened sometimes. So it was a really trying period for me. And one of the things I took away from that is because I had to spend a lot of time learning how to figure out things for myself. I don't want other people to have to do that themselves and fall into those same pitfalls. So one of the reasons I do what I do is because I want people to have the advantage of having somebody who's had the experience and avoid some of those things. And moving along, as later on, as I said, I was a geologist working for major oil companies. And later on, I was actually helping people market some of their software and for some of the service companies, and found out very quickly I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I would use the S word here, but for sake of softer ears, I won't use some of those words. But some of the people that I had, some of the things I had to do, I didn't know how to do it. So I actually hired a coach, and he helped me with my business. And at that point, during that period of time, I had a fire hose thrown at me or put in my mouth and turned on full blast. So I had to learn a lot of things right from the get-go. And it was either learn it or drown with all that water coming through that fire hose. So that's
So just to take a pause here for a minute and give our guests a chance to follow us. So who and what was the fire hose? I mean, it's all fun to talk about fire hoses, and I think many of us may have experienced them at one time or another. But what was your fire hose? What constituted that for you?
okay. This was one of my coaches. He's actually now he's my partner right now. And I mean, like, it wasn't just him, but he was probably the main instigator. And I can give you his name here if that's okay. His name was David Chang. And he actually, he and I do some work together. We do some independent stuff as well. But he actually introduced me to a lot of people that actually turned on multiple fire hoses. So it wasn't enough to have one fire hose. I had to have a few on at the same time. And so that becomes even more of a challenge. Like, I studied people like Jay Abraham, David Nagel, Gary Besavenga. There was probably there's Brian Tracy, Perry Marshall were a few of the people I studied under. And so they became some of the fire hoses that I studied under. And from that, I learned a lot, and I'm continuing to learn. I'm always taking additional courses. I spend probably a good 20% of my time learning my craft. And then the other maybe 10%, 10% delivering it to people. And then probably the rest of the time is actually building the relationship so I can deliver it to more people. So I'll spend more of that time actually delivering it rather than trying to get those clients. The ultimate goal is to have as many people I can help as I can, so I'm not spending so much time actually looking for those gold nuggets of prospects, clients that I want for my business. The more people I can help, and this leads me to why I do what I do.
So you are, let me see if I can understand. So it seems to me that one of the things that you do is you help people be seen and recognized and known as kind of a lead generation factor, so that they actually attract the people that they want to attract, or is it something like that?
Well, that's part of it, but that's only a small part of it. So I would say that the main focus I'm trying to accomplish is, it's a little bit self-serving, I have to admit, because when I help somebody, it gives me a sense of elation in myself and how I feel about myself. So when somebody tells me that I've actually helped them achieve a certain goal or give them a certain sense of accomplishment, and they tell me that, I mean, we all want to be appreciated. And I think the fact of being appreciated for helping somebody is what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's a great feeling. I think we all, well, most of us in the coaching profession anyway, have decided long ago that we really, really liked helping people. And that is probably the thing that gets a lot of us up, is to make that difference.
The thing that got me started there was when I wrote my first book, Timeless Commandments for Entrepreneurial Success. The front cover actually has a quote from Zig Ziglar. And a lot of people may or may not know who he is. He was one of the greatest sales trainers that ever lived. Some of you might argue that, but he was definitely one of the best, if not the best. And one of the things he often said was, you'll get everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want.
Yes, it's a great quote. I mean, and everybody can live by that, because our job is out there to help people get what they want. And in that way, we get what we want. So it makes the world go round when people can operate like that.
I didn't want to diminish what you said earlier about helping people get create more visibility. That's definitely a part of it. But so somebody might be struggling with more than that. But my focus these days is really about creating visibility. But the other three components of that are, I call the 4 pillars of business success. The first one is actually understanding, having a great message that your audience can relate to. And that takes me to the second component, which is your audience. Understand who the audience is. So there's an old quote by Dan Canny called "Market to a Message to Market Match." So in other words, your market, your message has to match who your market is targeting. So and the third component is your offer. What are you offering to your client that actually makes them want to use you as a resource? I like to use an analogy of the patient who comes into the hospital with a bleeding neck. And the doctor is standing there, and he doesn't have to say very much as far as convincing that person that they need to be his client, because they're going to die if they don't. So what I like to ask my clients is, what is your clients or your patients or your customer, what is their bleeding neck? And the more urgent it is, the easier it is going to be to sell it to them if you can provide a solution for them.
It sounds a little scary. I can just picture myself there with the bleeding neck going, "Oh, doctor, please save me. Please grab a needle and start sewing, do something."
But a bleeding neck takes many forms. It could be financial. It could be a marriage breakup. It could be maybe I'm not getting enough clients in my business, and my life is going to go in the toilet if I don't do something right now. Or maybe it's just I need to have this right now, or I'm going to starve. I'm not going to have domicile over my head. I'm going to lose my family. Whatever that, the bleeding neck can take many, many forms, and don't all necessarily have to be that severe, but the more severe it is, the better. Your bleeding neck could be something as simple as I just need to decide what restaurant I want to go to. I mean, that's a really easy one, but it's a very, very simplistic one, but it can go anywhere from that to all the way to actually having to go to the hospital.
Well, I sort of see the restaurant, as opposed to somebody who's starving, who doesn't care what restaurant they go to, as long as they have food and they have enough money to afford it, they'll be pretty happy. The hot dog stand down the street will do just fine. But, it seems to me that somebody who is taking time to choose a restaurant has time and maybe has a pretty strong want for a particular experience, whether it's a fantastic steak or maybe it's a Mexican dinner that's kind of feels authentic.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably about a 1 or a 2. Whereas a bleeding neck is a 10.
Definitely a 10.
So what I like to talk about there is, this is something I learned from one of my coaches, and he says that the fundamental desire and need and emotional desire for everybody that underlies everything we want and desire is one basic thing, and that is shelter, domicile, food, and protection for myself and my loved ones.
Wasn't that all Cialdini's influence?
That's only
layers of influence.
That's part of it. But ultimately, underneath the umbrella over that is really wanting to have domicile, food, protection, clothing, and for you and your family. How you actually attract people there gets into Cialdini's six pieces of influence, like somebody liking you, reciprocity. Those are all things that will attract people to you as a potential source or potential resource for providing what that person really wants. And underneath all that, you think those main things that people want as far as domicile, there's a whole bunch of other things that spew off from that. And like, maybe I want more money. Maybe I want to take a bigger vacation, or maybe I want to find the love of my life. Maybe I want to, have a certain kind of business, and maybe I want to get more clients. Because one thing I like to tell people is money is not what people really want. Somebody says, I want to make more money. Well, that's actually really a very shallow answer to what people want. The money don't get me wrong, money is important. But what people often don't understand, is that money is really just a tool to get the things you want. So basically, you need the money to get those things, but underneath, you want that money so you can have those main things you want. The money itself is just a commodity, just paper. It's just a commodity, but that commodity helps you get the things that you really want. It's a tool. That's all it is.
Yeah, well, we all need our tools. There are lots of great tools out there. And I understand that you've got some pretty great tools that you use as well that can help people get what they really want, which I presume is clients and more income coming in.
And one of the ways I do that is I talk about or teach people or coach people on how to actually, I'm not a sales trainer, but what I would say is I understand strategy, and strategies about getting clients is very important. You need tactics too, and I'll get into it in a moment with a quote here in a moment, but strategy and tactics are both important. So you need to understand your strategy gets into your goals, your mission, what you're trying to accomplish, what is it you're really striving for. And the strategy is really all the different methodologies, not necessarily the tactics, but the methodologies and the steps you're going to take to get where you want to go. And it starts with knowing where you are. It's like if you're in the middle of a desert and you have a compass, but you don't know where you are, that compass does you no good whatsoever. You need to know where you're starting from. So that's part of your strategy, and understanding where you're trying to go. If I'm trying to I'm in the middle of the desert and I'm trying to get to Las Vegas, or I'm trying to get to San Francisco, or I'm trying to get to LA, that might be my goal. And the compass is really the tool I use to actually guide me to get there. I consider myself a bit like a compass. So once you know where you are and where you want to go, my job is to guide you to get there. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to take you by the hand, but I'm going to tell you what you need to do to yourself and give you the tools to do it to get where you need to go. If that kind of addresses that question.
So do you have a specific tool you'd like to talk to us about, or are there a suite of tools, or you referred to the tools that you might use?
I have actually a 4-part system.
Okay.
That I use. And first of all, the first part is really getting on a strategy call, finding out where you are, where you want to go, what's working, what's not working for you, and really find out from you what is you really want, and what is you need, and especially what you need immediately. It's not about necessarily finding what you need 10 years from now. I mean, that can be a part of the call, but what do you need right away? And we'll talk a bit about that in a strategy call. And then at the end of that strategy call, we'll talk about the 4 ways to actually improve your customer base. And there's really 3 ways to do that. One of them is by creating a strong message about, once you understand what you want to do, then you got to create a strong message about it. What makes you different? What sets you apart from everybody else? Why would I come to you, Mary? Or why would somebody come to me, Rick, to have their problem solved? What's their big problem? And what is it that you have that's going to solve that big problem I have? So that's what we talk about. And so there's 3 ways to actually find out what that is. And one of them is often what most people unfortunately do is they pontificate about what they're good at, which unfortunately is comes from an egocentric point of view. So we think we're good at something, we think we're good at this, we think we're good at that, we think we're good at something else. We create a laundry list of things we're good at. And you might be right 10 or 20% of the time, but up to 9% of the time you're going to be wrong, because what you think you're good at is probably not what you are really good at. There'll be pieces there that you are, but ultimately and that's going to be a good start. It's scratching the surface, and you need to start there. And you can also talk to your staff, talk to your employees, talk to your vendors, talk to other people that you've uh, that have coached you, or the people that know you well. And that's going to give you some idea. But to take it to the next level, there's one thing I learned in my journey that I didn't mention earlier is the biggest thing I learned during that journey of growing up in what I'm doing is there's only one opinion that matters, and that's your clients. Your opinion doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. The opinion of the guy down the street doesn't matter. The only person's opinion matters is the guy that's writing a check. Period. End of statement. If I ask you about your opinion about me, if you're not a client, well, your opinion is probably not worth that much. And if I ask myself that question, my opinion is not worth that much. It's worth something, but not as much as you might think. And it's no disrespect to anybody that I'm asking the question to. It's just a fact of life. So you have to go and ask your prospects, ask your clients, your patients, or your customers. You ask them a series of questions, and during a strategy call, we'll talk about what those are. You ask those questions, and from those questions, they are going to tell you what you're good at, what you're not good at, what they like to see improved, and why they came to you in the first place, why they stay with you. That's going to tell you more succinctly what differentiates you than anything else. Another component you can do is by looking at the competition, but there's a bit of a caveat and warning goes with this. And that is, some people will go, if they're trying to compare themselves to somebody else and say, well, I'm fairly like this guy or fairly like that guy, and that he's really successful, he's doing really good business, so I need to go to his website. There is a problem with that. And it's not entirely crystal clear that it's a problem, because sometimes it can be helpful. But often it's a problem because he may be doing really well in spite of his business, in spite of his website, not because of it. So you have to think yourself, is the website actually really reflective of how he's getting clients? Example is, I know a lady who was at a flower shop, and she was trying to get more and more clients. She hired an SEO expert, and they're getting lots and lots of people coming to the website. But it turned out at the end of the day, she was getting more clients, but turned out the most of the clients were from referrals, not from the website. So even though the website was doing really well, it wasn't actually getting her clients. So you can't just rely on, you have to be very careful when you're looking at how people are marketing themselves, because the way they're doing it may not be the way that works well for you. And so
I don't think I have to say, I don't think a website will ever trump a referral. A referral from somebody else, I think, is one of the more powerful ways to get a client, for sure.
It won't, but often people will use the analogy of a website actually gives you a little more authority, a little more visibility. So I'm not saying a website is bad, because, and I hear what you're saying, because a referral is probably the single best way to get a client. Absolutely the best way, positive. I agree with that. Unfortunately, we can't be everywhere talking to everybody and have referrals that refers to everybody. The world's too big, and your client and your audience is too big. So that's why people do websites, because they want to reach a bigger audience. They do ads because they want to reach a bigger audience. But again, if you could reach the same number of people through referrals as you could through an ad or your website, I would say absolutely just forget about your website, forget about ads, just go after referrals. And some people actually do that, but for some people that's not enough. You want to reach a bigger audience. And the way to do, you can't be everywhere, and you can't, even if you have your target audience really well specified, narrowed down, you cannot reach everybody that you could be reaching. And if you're at a stage where you can't grow anymore, you've already, you can't get more clients, you can't use more clients, you haven't got room to grow, well, then that's okay. I mean, don't worry about it. But if you're actually looking to grow and get more clients, then look at alternatives just besides referrals. For instance, one of my big mentors is Jay Abraham, and I don't mind giving his name out here, because if somebody wants to go out and use him, you're welcome to do that. If you have an extra $100,000 in your pocket per day, go right ahead. And that's his going rate. but he talked in one of his stage presentations was that you want to have what they call 8 pillars of revenue generating activities, because one might dry up. If you're doing Facebook ads and all of a sudden your Facebook ads get shut down, well, guess what? And you're getting lots of making lots of money from it. Well, all of a sudden Facebook decides they don't like you anymore, and you basically have no your revenue stream dries up. And or if Google decides they don't like you, well, then of course you've lost any of YouTube. I know people who've been totally closed out of YouTube for making any revenue through advertising to them. So you want to have about 5 to 8 different activities for revenue stream generation. Referrals is definitely one of them. One of the ones I like that kind of replaces all of them is the one I focus on a lot right now, and I do call it the Kardashian effect. And so people ask, well, what do you mean by the Kardashian effect? Well, love them or hate them. Some people say, well, they're very good at drawing attention for somebody that has really no product. Well, they actually have really good products. They have good makeup products, and they actually do really well, and they have a large following. So I'm not suggesting, for instance, for one moment you become like the Kardashians, but the metaphor for them is that they're very good at attracting attention. Good or bad, they grab very good attention. So if you want to, and they get a lot of eyeballs on them, essentially. So if you want to get this in your local business, you want to get the same income eyeballs in your business, then one way to do that, well, you could hire the Kardashians and pay them $1 million. You could hire Arnold Schwarzenegger and pay him $100,000 for one ad. But if you don't want to pay those kind of dollars, or if you don't want to hire an SEO expert who often they don't know what they're doing. So there's some that do, there's exceptions to that rule. But they can be very expensive, time consuming. A PR agency will actually cost you a lot of money as well, or you can post a lot yourself. And that takes a lot of time and effort to do, and sometimes a lot of money, especially if you're running ads.
Rick, I'm going to have to interrupt us here simply because it's been so interesting that we are running out of time. So I know that our audience is going to want to know how they can reach you to find out more and find out how you can actually help them. So how would you suggest that they do that?
I just finished up one quick thing, and I'll do that right away. I promise to be really quick.
Okay.
So the one way to bypass all that is to actually, using my connection with the media, you get your articles posted on major networks like NBC, USA Today, Google News, and about 300 different other ones, which actually elevate your authority and visibility to a much larger audience in your local area. And if you want to find out more about that, the best way to do that would be to book a call with me. And you can book a call with me, and I'll just leave you with this one quote, and then I'll give you the link. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. And tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. That's a quote from Sun Tzu. So I'd ask you, if you want to find out more about what I'm talking about there, is book a free consult to plan your route to victory. And that link is bookachat.wii.fm. That's bookachat.wii.fm.
So bookachat.wii.fm in order to book a call with Rick and find out how he can help you find the strategy and the tactics that will take you to victory. So I want to thank you very much for coming on with us and talking to us. It was very interesting. I certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience will have as well. And I want to invite any of our watchers who would like to appear on my show to go to a link called getonmyshow.com, and we can have a chat and see how that might look for you. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.